move on to subdivision 2605 and map amendment 2601.
I wrote on there Prometheus subdivision, and since I finished my staff review, they did change it to the Atlas Industrial Park, but we're talking about the same thing. There is a change in name from what I put on your staff review until what has been out, but we're still talking about the same subdivision.
Okay.
And we can clarify that a little farther on when Mr. Thornhill comes up. Mr. Chairman, this is for everybody's information. We've got two efforts here tonight. I realize that this is a topic of high interest, and there's a lot of questions that people want to have answered and need to have answered, and that's perfectly great. We'd love to have you all here, and we hope to get all of your questions answered and all the concerns resolved that can be, and the folks are here to help facilitate that. What I will say here, so that everybody knows, is what we're talking about right now in this particular public hearing is just the subdivision. After this subdivision, our next topic on the agenda is the conditional use permit that would be more involved in the actual operation of what these folks wish to do. But what we're talking about right now is the subdivision, the creation of the lot that we're going to be considering alone. So right now it's just the subdivision and the map amendment, Mr. Chairman. So with that, Prometheus Wyoming LLC, they own, or the Thornock family owns, GNC Holdings owns the property, and this proposal would change zoning and subdivide most of the section in question into a new one-lot minor industrial zone subdivision. This would create an industrial park of this area. Again, this is a large lot, and to be honest, we have not considered, as a county, to my knowledge, an industrial park of this size. But that doesn't mean that we can't do it. It just means we haven't done it prior to. Again, this would be in preparation for a conditional use permit that would come under your consideration following this subdivision. But just a brief introduction here, and then I'll let the property owners and the developers speak, and others. The current zoning here is ARD, or Agricultural Resource Development. For those that might not understand that is simply a blanket zoning for anything in the county that isn't industrial, commercial, or residential. Our entire county, Uinta County, is zoned in its entirety. Not all counties in Wyoming are that way. We are. And this particular zoning is an ARD, which covers agricultural as well as resource extraction and development, and development that would accommodate other potential uses down the road. Proposed here would change this to an industrial use from ARD, and a business. The type of subdivision here would be a business industrial. Access to this property would be a private access off of County Road 180. We're talking about one lot, and we're talking about, I just put on my staff review 600 plus or minus. We can nail that down a little bit, but it would be a large lot. Water service for the subdivision would be by private wells, and the sewer service would be by private small wastewater system. Given the nature of what the intention is, that system would have to be permitted directly by the DEQ. There are no water rights on the property, to my knowledge, and the flood zone doesn't impact. You do have, and I put on your table prior to the meeting, typically we would consider a soil conservation report that was submitted to the conservation district, and given the size and the scope of what we're talking about here, they declined to offer a recommendation, and you have a letter to that effect. And so this would just create a large industrial lot, and again, we've not considered a subdivision of this size or this magnitude prior to this. For those that may or may not know where this is, the area is kind of close to our old Eagle Rock ski area, that same general location in very general terms. And again, they would just subdivide this lot into an industrial park. So, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I will open a public hearing. There's folks here representing the applicant, and we'll let them speak first, and then we'll open up to other comments. Thorne, if you'd like to. Is my stuff going to bother you there? I'll just leave it there. And I'll just step over there.
Yeah, it'll be a minute. So this is not the first time I've been through this process with you all. My name's Trenton Thornock. I'm the founder of Prometheus Hyperscale. And we're here to consider this subdivision and a conditional use permit. I was previously before this commission asking for a conditional use permit on section 31 on the same ranch approximately 5 years ago. We have started construction on that parcel. It's considered under construction by the planning and zoning folks here in Uinta County. And so as things have evolved, we needed to move to a different site. The original site that we have permitted will allow us to build 1 building. We now need to build 5 buildings. And so that's why this question is for you tonight. And again, my intent here is to give you the information that will tell you whether it meets the county ordinances and comprehensive plan for the land use. Just to give you a little background on my family, we've been in this area for over 150 years. My brother Brady still manages and works the ranch, and the parcels of land up and down the Bear River Valley where we ranch have been in our family for up to 6 generations. So before I say anything about data centers or megawatts, I want you to know that this, for me, is home still. This land in the community matters to me in a way that goes well beyond business. And I've been accused as a sellout, so I think I ought to address that. It'll be a short story. The day after I graduated from high school, I went to work for a company in Afton, Wyoming called Trio Electric as a welder. Trio at that time could not find any work in Wyoming, and so I moved to Colorado. That's the end of my story.
That was enlightening.
Sure. So I'm here tonight to walk you through our proposed project and answer your questions directly. I'd rather earn your trust with facts than ask for your approval without the facts. So again, I didn't start Prometheus and then come here looking for land. I started it after looking at the land with my brother that we have owned for a long time, and we saw an opportunity to bring generational investment to a community that we're already a part of. And so as I go through this narrative, the economic impact numbers, which are all estimates for the record, and our ranching heritage, those are here to provide background and color to you, but we recognize that, Prometheus recognizes that the reason we're here is to assess the technical aspects of this project and whether it meets the county's land use requirements. So as things have evolved, the section of land that we're proposing to build a data center campus on has shifted, and we are now in Township 15 North, Range 118 West, Section 13. For those of you who don't know where this is, it's up on the screen. It's got blue around it. It's right off of exit 13 on Interstate 80. Most people blow by that unless they're working on the wind farms on the north side of the freeway. We are on the south side of the freeway. The closest land use to us is the Evanston Silver Eagle Refinery, which you can see as the postage stamp to the left of the little BLM section right in the middle of the map. The rest of the land is vacant, except for some cell towers that are at the high point of the land. Abby, can you help me move forward? Thanks. So what is what are we actually proposing? So on roughly a little more than 500 acres of our family land near Interstate 80, we plan to build a data center campus. And some of you may not understand what a data center is. You can think of it as a giant library, except instead of books, it stores information, and instead of librarians, it uses computers to find and deliver the information almost instantly. So every time you Google something, you stream a show on Netflix, or ask ChatGPT a question, your request goes to one of these libraries, gets answered by a computer, and comes back to your screen, if you're using your phone, in a couple of seconds. Some of you may not know what it looks like. On the left-hand side of the screen, you have an example. The initial campus will support over 1.25 gigawatts of computing capacity, and these will be developed over 5 phases. The build footprint, which is the actual buildings, is expected to cover roughly 8 to 9 football fields worth of space. And for perspective, your county planner and GIS specialist asked me to arrange a tour for them of an operating data center that's more or less just like this one. It exists in West Jordan, Utah. And in that case, it's directly across the street from a single-family subdivision. Abby? So this is a block diagram of how we plan to lay out the buildings on the site, given that we've got some rights-of-way and easements that we have to work around. Next slide. Everyone's concerned about water use. I know water's a top concern in Wyoming, and it should be. In fact, it's the reason I started this company. This campus will use about the same amount of water as about 15 homes. That's the entire campus, not per building, the entire site. And again, your county planning folks have seen a facility that's very similar to this one in size, and it uses that amount of water, and they can say that because they're up and running. We will not draw from Uinta County's municipal water supply. We will not discharge wastewater into any local systems. The cooling system's closed loop, which means it recirculates internally. The only wells on site serve the office buildings and bathrooms for basic domestic use. We understand that water rights and water supply are foundational to this county. Our design was built around that reality from day one. Zero demand on the county and zero discharge. It's not a footnote, it's a core design requirement that we gave to our tenant. The next slide shows closed loop liquid cooling system and kind of a cutaway version of that. And again, your county planner has seen this working. And I want to make sure that everyone understands this slide because it's the foundation of our water commitment. So what is closed loop cooling and how does it work? If you look at the 2 pieces of equipment to the upper left, you can think of those as the radiator in your car. It circulates water and propylene glycol in a closed loop. They go into the data hall through the CDU, which is short for coolant distribution unit, picks up the heat from the servers and sends it back out to go through the dry coolers. On the hottest days of the year, which is expected to be between 4 and 8 days in Evanston because our average annual temperature is 55 degrees Fahrenheit, it's perfect data center weather, we'll have to use the machine that's on the lower left. That you can think of as the AC compressor in your vehicle if you have one. I know folks here and in Alaska sometimes don't need AC. So this cooling approach has been used in high-performance computing environments for years, going back to the 1980s with Cray supercomputers, and it's increasingly standard for modern data centers. It's proven, the physics are sound, the engineering's established, and the version that your county planner and GIS specialist saw started construction in 2019 and has been operational since 2021. And I have to make a correction for the record. We held an open house yesterday for the community, and I quoted a Class 6 well. It's actually an EPA Class 1 well where any residual fluid from this system would be properly disposed by our vendor. Next slide. So our power strategy is on-site, off the grid, with zero impact to your electricity bill. And that's the question that we get most often is, what are you going to do to my power and my utility bill? Prometheus Hyperscale is going to generate its own power on-site and operate off the grid, meaning it does not draw from the public grid. I have to repeat that again. It does not draw from the public grid because it's not even connected. That means your power bills cannot be affected.
It's not off-grid then.
The reliability of electricity for homes and businesses in Evanston is not affected. We're not competing with you for grid capacity. We're building our own. Most folks know that Wyoming produces significantly more energy than it consumes, about 15 times. Instead of exporting that energy, we are converting that Wyoming energy resource into Wyoming jobs and Wyoming tax base for Wyoming tax revenue, particularly for Uinta County, so that that value no longer goes out of state, it stays here. This slide is about what we're doing to minimize noise, light, and traffic. So we have designed mitigation into our design from day one. Noise is another issue I've heard from community members, so let me put some numbers to it. At the fence line, our campus will generate somewhere between 60 and 70 decibels at peak, roughly equivalent to the dishwasher running in your kitchen on the high side and your refrigerator on the low side. That means that 1,000 feet away, it'll drop to about 45 to 55 decibels, quieter than a normal conversation, and certainly quieter than I am. And for context, Interstate 80 running alongside this site generates more than 75 decibels. And again, decibels are parabolic, so as the number goes higher, the sound gets louder and louder. Our facility will be quieter than the interstate that already runs through the section. The noise figures shared tonight are based on our preliminary acoustic modeling. They're also based on the decibels that your GIS specialist and the county planner heard on a tour of a data center that is pretty much the same as the one that we're going to build. So we will commission a third-party study specific to this terrain, and we will publish those results publicly when they're complete. On the lighting, all exterior lighting will be shielded and directed downward. We're not going to light up the night sky, the same as the gas plants that are on the Bear River Divide. That's an engineering requirement that we've built into the design, and we're able to do that because most of the activity goes on inside the buildings. And on traffic, construction traffic will be coordinated with local government. Once we are operational, traffic resembles a small business. Shift workers rotate in and out 3 times a day. Maintenance crews, which are mostly contractors, and the occasional equipment delivery will come in. So this is not like a retail facility with constant public traffic. This is presented to you just for color. I know it's not a technical requirement of the subdivision process or the conditional use permit. We have a construction and operations jobs plan, which also assumes that we're going to have Wyoming first hiring. And simply what that means is if there's a toss-up during the hiring process, we have instructed our contractors that the person with the Wyoming license wins. At peak construction, this project will create approximately 3,800 temporary construction jobs. These folks are not all going to show up at once. There's going to be a long ramp. It's going to take a while for us to spool up, and we've got to start with earthwork. Once we finish that and we go vertical, We'll have electricians, iron workers, pipe fitters, fiber technicians, HVAC crews, and surveyors. Surveyors have already been out there. So we have multi-year construction, which means we have sustained, meaningful employment for the local workforce, not a single burst that disappears and leaves people moving to Colorado. Once operational, the campus will support 200 long-term operations jobs, which are facility technicians, network and data center operations staff, mechanical and electrical maintenance, security, and site management. These are skilled, well-paying positions. And then there's the multiplier. For every direct job this project creates, there will be an estimated 6 additional jobs supported in the broader economy. So they may not be new jobs, but they'll have more activity. And for suppliers, restaurants, housing, healthcare, schools, and retail. And that all comes from a PricewaterhouseCoopers study. So again, our commitment is Wyoming workers first. We'll hire locally where we can, and as part of our Build Wyoming initiative, we've started partnerships with Wyoming colleges and training programs. We've also invested in and will continue to invest in workforce development, job training, and education programs. And Salute, which is the company that we've selected to operate the data center after it's commissioned, has its own internal training program where it can start people from the bottom and train them into high-paid jobs. Here's what the construction timeline looks like. So subject to receiving the necessary permits and approvals from you and then the county commissioners, we anticipate beginning construction within approximately the next 6 months. Full campus build out at 1.25 gigawatts of capacity will be delivered in phases over roughly 48 to 60 months, which is 4 to 5 years of activity. That phased approach means that Uinta County and its citizens will see sustained construction activity for several years. And it also means that you will have ample opportunity to observe how we operate, hold us accountable, and see our commitments in action before we get to full scale. Again, we're not here to rush through a vote and disappear. I've been working on this project for 6 years. I was 46 when I started, I'm 52 now. We plan to be a long-term presence in the community because this is our community and I want it to be part of my family's legacy. These numbers may seem big, but I'm telling you, in the data center industry, they're small. We're approximately 1/10 the size of the Crusoe data center that's going into Cheyenne, Wyoming. These numbers come from the University of Wyoming Center for Business and Economic Analysis, which has modeled the tax impact of this project, and the numbers, which are estimated, are significant. During construction, Uinta County and sub-county entities will receive approximately $40 million in total tax revenue, nearly equivalent to an entire year of the county's current total tax collections. Once operational, the project will generate approximately $13 million per year in county and sub-county tax revenue. That's a 26% increase to the county's current annual tax base. Those funds go directly, as you know, to schools, fire districts, roads, public safety, and county government. So again, the specifications that we want to speak to are these, and the first one is compatibility with the area. This data center is located within an established industrial corridor with nearby uses including a refinery, cell tower infrastructure, and Interstate 80. The surrounding area is largely vacant and sparsely populated, except with my brother's cows, and the nearest residence is approximately 1.2 miles away, which significantly reduces the potential for land use conflicts. Additionally, this project is centrally located within a large parcel creating substantial natural buffering from adjacent properties and public roadways, including the interstate and County Road 180. Based on these factors, we believe this project is consistent with the character and development pattern of the area, is not unlike the gas plant on the Bear River Divide. Any temporary or operational impacts such as noise, dust, or traffic are addressed through standard mitigation measures, including equipment placement, dust control plans, and designated haul routes, which will largely trace the haul routes for the Silver Eagle refinery. On traffic congestion and noise, traffic impacts are primarily associated with the construction phase, and they're temporary in nature. Construction will occur approximately 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, and will include heavy equipment and deliveries. And to minimize impacts, traffic will be routed via designated access points, again from Interstate 80 and County Road 180, and a traffic management plan operated by our general contractors will be coordinated with local agencies. Worker busing is also planned to reduce the number of individual vehicle trips. During operations, traffic is expected to be minimal due to low staffing levels, with activity largely limited to employee shifts and occasional service visits by contractors. Noise impacts will be limited through equipment selection, placement, and adherence to operational standards, with additional controls on generator testing and construction activity timing. So lastly, we'll get to compliance. According to our consultants at Tetra Tech, the project meets and exceeds the requirements of Chapter 5 through the points value analysis, and under our scoring, achieved a total score of 35 points, which is well above the 25-point threshold required for approval of industrial developments in this county. This project demonstrates compliance across key categories, including water supply, wastewater treatment, fire protection, and waste management. The site itself is well suited for development with no floodplain impacts, suitable soils, and we have completed exhaustive geotechnical work, and no identified natural hazards or sensitive environmental resources. Additionally, the project aligns with Uinta County's comprehensive plan by supporting economic diversification, job creation, and industrial development in appropriate areas. So overall, this analysis supports that the project meets development and performance standards and is appropriate for approval. So with your permission, I would like to invite my brother Brady, who is most directly impacted, to say a few words, if you would allow that.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to come up and speak.
And your full name?
My name is Brady Thornock. As Trent says, I operate the land currently. I came back to the family ranch in 2009, full-time on the ranch with a part-time job and a side hustle, like most ranch kids. I've spent my whole life out here on this ground. I was just thinking about it, standing out there, out here when we take a tour of folks out to the site, about the spot we parked. That was the first spot. One fall, I got involved with roping and dragging a cow into the trailer, a late straggler. She got on the fight pretty bad. It was pretty exciting for a young guy like me. I could tell you stories about anywhere on that range. It means a lot to me and a lot to my family. So for us to consider a project like this, it's been pretty serious and pretty heavy. It's something that I've put a lot of thought into. The only thing that makes it worthwhile is if it benefits everybody here in this room and everybody who came out last night. what a respectful crowd of people, and we really appreciate it. This is a really good community. Wyoming is a great state, and America is a great nation. And I hope we're all proud to be a part of it. So looking at all the benefits that come, to me, it is worth the sacrifice. And it is a sacrifice to our family. We're a 6th-generation family ranch. We plan for that to continue for as many generations as are willing. And so to cut this slice of ground out and put it to use in something besides agriculture, it's a big deal to me and our family. So I just ask you to strongly consider allowing it to go forward. I think the benefits are awesome. I think if everybody can take the time to find good resources and study into the data center industry, you'll find what I've found. 6 years ago, I had no idea what the cloud was or what a data center was. Never thought about it. I'm sure most people here are the same. But the more that I've been able to research it on my own, it's pretty cool. It moves fast and grows exponentially, but it's in every facet of our lives. It's just like another utility. So anyway, I won't bore you to death, but I do appreciate this opportunity, and I'll leave that with you.
May I continue?
Yes.
Maybe not so much in Wyoming.
So with your permission to continue, I'd like to propose the following stipulations to go along with the conditional use permit that we're going to consider in a minute. The first one is that we will post-commissioning publicize our water well consumption on a public portal so that you can see the meter run. That's number one. Number two is that we will complete a CFD analysis, that stands for computational fluid dynamics. It's a model that shows how heat from the data center is dispersed, and also how the scrubbed exhaust gas dispersion from any backup gensets disperses through the air. And we will deliver that before we go operational. And number three, this was a request from one of our closest neighbors. We will repair or replace the bridge on County Road 181, which is the Lazard Mine Road, at the junction of County Road 180, and we will post a road impact bond. So with that, we're on the final slide already. Hopefully everybody's jotted down that email address. That's how you can get in touch with us. Again, we've been part of this community for 6 generations. I'm not a developer who showed up looking for a site. My family are the landowners, and I'm a founder who chose to build here because I believe in the future of Uinta County, in Wyoming, and in America. We've designed this project to protect the things that matter most to this community. Number 1, water. Number 2, power reliability. Number 3, quiet. And number 4, the night sky. We've committed to hiring locally, supporting the community, and remaining accessible throughout this entire process. And when the time is right, I will insist that our tenant come here and work on our community benefits agreement, which is a contract that we intend to make among ourselves and the community. We do want to answer every question you have tonight, and we want you to have a direct line to us going forward. So you can see, you can reach us at evanston@prometheushyperscale.com. Full project information is available on our website at prometheushyperscale.com. And gentlemen of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I want to thank you for your time.
This is a public hearing, so we will continue that public hearing. When we get into the public comment or public question portion of it, if you'd like to come, if you have a question or a comment or whatever you'd like to say, we'd like you to come to the podium here, speak to the commission, to the chairman of the commission, state your name and your address, so that we know kind of where you're from, and please be respectful. In the interest of time, we'd like you to keep your comments direct, to the point, and we'll do our best to keep that in that direction. So with that, Mr. Chairman, is there anyone else that would like to speak regarding this proposal? This is the subdivision and the map amendment only, the subdivision and the change in zoning. Is there anyone that would like to speak or ask questions regarding the subdivision itself? Please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Parker Jackson. I reside at 604 Tierra Court North in Lyman. I just want to say, having followed a lot of the discussion that's been going on, not just here but across the country, that there's a couple things I think that have been lost in the conversation about these data centers. And I'm generally in support of the project. I think that the developer's done a really good job answering a lot of questions. There's always going to be minor inconveniences, but the 3 points I just wanted to make are, the people in Wyoming, and especially the people in Uinta County, generally support free market principles. And I think what we've seen is that there's a clear market demand for these types of projects, and they're going to be built somewhere. So we can capitalize on that and benefit, or we can let them, go down the road somewhere else. But I think that it is a reflection of, again, the general principles that most people in Wyoming tend to espouse, that we let the market determine the need for these projects. The second one, and this is particularly relevant to tonight's hearing, is sometimes we forget private property rights in these conversations. This is private property. And yes, I know the county has a role to play in the zoning, but this isn't something where public property is being sold or leased. And I think it behooves all of us to remember that people generally have a right to do what they want on their own property as long as they're not bothering their neighbors. I took the opportunity going home from the meeting last night to drive by the site, and it's pretty well tucked out of the way. It's not next to any major residential. You already have, as has been mentioned, a major industrial site just down the road from it. I don't think it's out of character to put something like this right down the road. And the last point I wanted to make is I very much appreciate the commitment of the developer to generate their own power. Just this year in March, the President of the United States and the Trump administration issued a proclamation that's called the Ratepayer Protection Pledge. And I just wanted to read a little portion of that. The President said, America's continued economic and technological leadership depends on reliable large-scale data center infrastructure built in the United States. Data center infrastructure is the foundation of the internet, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and it supports our economic and national security. In order to harness the full power of American innovation and ensure that Americans do not become reliant on foreign industries, the development of large-scale data center infrastructure and AI must occur here at home, with American workers and engineers leading the way. Our investments in these industries will also employ Americans across a wider array of professions in a shared endeavor that will bolster our nation's economic standing for years to come. However, as data centers expand their footprint and electricity demand associated with AI increases, American households must be protected against increasing energy costs. The hyperscalers and AI companies that increase electricity demand must pay for the full cost of the energy and infrastructure needed to build and operate data centers, and must not pass this cost on to the American people. Instead, the data center boom should be leveraged to address affordability and benefit all American households and businesses. And he goes on at the end, he officially proclaims that that constitutes the official policy of the United States government. So I'll leave it there. I assume there's some other thoughts on that, but just as someone who grew up here, deep family roots here as well, generally supportive of the project and hope that, as any little inconveniences and snags come up, that we'll be able to address those. So, thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak regarding this subdivision or not?
Ray Hayden, Bear River, 184 Antelope Drive. I must agree with the last presentation there. It's time, this is an opportunity for the Uinta County, the people in it, to capitalize on the future. There'll be jobs. We seem to export our young people and import our older people. Let's turn that around and keep I would love to see my grandkids live here for their lives and grow up. This is an opportunity for that to happen. Thank you.
Anyone else? I guess if no one else wishes to speak regarding the map amendment or subdivision, we can close this public hearing and let you have your discussion.
Okay. Anybody got any questions or any comments or?
I'm sorry? Yes?
Just back in the room, I couldn't respond quick enough.
Is that all right with you, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, we'll let.
Please. Lead away, hopefully.
Hi. Yeah, Hi, Greg Wilson, 104 Broken Circle Drive here in Evanston. I'm okay with the data center. I'm positive about it. My big concern is the man camp. I've forgotten what. Yeah. Are you going? Can I talk about it briefly?
Well, we're not on that subject. We're talking
Okay.
about subdivision and the conditional use permit, the man camp.
So will we have another chance to talk about that? Okay, then I'll talk about that later. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Any questions? Do we have a motion? Okay.
The infrastructure is going to be 18 point something acres, correct?
The infrastructure.
Or just for the data center, the buildings?
Tim, you want, maybe I'll have you. I don't know if
So if we're talking about the footprint of each building is approximately 8 to 9 football fields. About 20 acres,
So how many acres?
100 total out of the 500. And then there'll be some support infrastructure like mechanical yards, parking lots, administrative support building, that sort of thing, as you saw in the block diagram.
Okay, so my question to you is, why the 500 acres you want all industrial?
So that we have a buffer. If we're going to change the design to have more than 5 buildings, we will come back to you for approval.
Okay,
So they want to expand.
that's all I have.
Mr. Chairman, I spent quite a bit of time studying this particular proposal, and so would like to propose, I'll make a motion that we pass subdivision 26-05 and map amendment 26-01, the Atlas Industrial Park subdivision.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Subdivision 2605 and map amendment 2601. The Atlas subdivision has been approved to move on to the commissioners for their study and approvals on it.
Yes, sir.
And now I guess we can move on to the condition of the limestone rock. Conditional use 2601. And what's it going to be, Atlas Data Center? Or?
Yeah, I just put Prometheus on it too. I mean, the title of it is, we can manipulate that. The ins and outs and nuts and bolts of it all is the same. So, and if I labeled it wrong as far as title goes, that's my issue, not theirs. That's something that I've done. So, but
So you'll be our hearing.
I will be your hearing officer. Yes, sir. Again, this is just the applicant here is seeking a conditional use permit to construct and operate a data center and associated infrastructure and campus in an industrial land use district. Pending the approval, obviously, we'll consider this an industrial land use district pending the approval of the county commission. But in essence, it would be. Prometheus would again like to operate this data center. This is section 13, township 15 north, range 119 west, as Mr. Thornock has talked about. There's going to be some redundancy, folks, because we're talking about two different things, but we're talking also about the same exact area. This is something new for us. We, as Mr. Thornock mentioned, we have had a similar permit brought before this body as well as the county commission back in 2021. The same folks were applying then. Same folks were involved in that project. And as you might remember, interestingly enough, that conditional use permit was approved. And then they decided to reconsider the location, and that's what prompted this change in location. That's what prompted the need for the new conditional use permit. Again, as we mentioned before, this is near the old Eagle Rock ski area. County Road 180 is planned to provide the access, and all interior roads on the property would be constructed and maintained by the applicant, as they would be on private property. And we do have a copy in your packets of the written consent from the property owner. We ourselves have not necessarily identified any in this planning office negative impacts. We appreciated the fact that this is a closed loop system as far as cooling goes. Honestly, that's a lot of that is beyond my understanding. But my understanding is, and it has been from the start, that they would need to drill a water well, for which they would seek permission from the state engineer's office, and that would provide culinary water to the facility. The cooling and the operational water would, as Mr. Thornock mentioned, so it would be a closed loop system, so that well would not supply water to the cooling of the facility. The proposal itself has been advertised in accordance with our land use planning directions. As well as neighboring property owners have been notified by mail. And I guess other than that, based on what Mr. Thornock has already said, I think you have a general overview of what the applicant or what the conditional use permit would include. I did give you a kind of a draft copy of a conditional use permit, what it might look like. As you know, with many of our conditional use permits, or all of our conditional use permits, we might put on different conditions. You have the ability to add or subtract or recommend a subtraction or addition to these. I did add 5 to the document that you have, but those can be changed, and I'll just read through those quickly. One is that the construction of the project would commence within 5 years. I think that's safe to say, but if that needs to change, then Mr. Thornock can certainly express that interest or concern. The applicant must meet any and all Wyoming state requirements, including Wyoming state industrial siting. If it's required, there's a possibility that it may not be, and if it isn't, then that's great. If it is required, then they would need to meet their requirements. The third condition that I've considered, or would have you consider, is that Uinta County, Wyoming shall be the receiving location for all goods, materials, tools, equipment, or supplies for said project, and any storage facility for said items shall be constructed, utilized, or maintained by applicant within the lawful boundaries of Uinta County, Wyoming. That is designed to provide for the county the sales tax revenue that would be generated by the project. And typical to all of our conditional use permits, the construction dust must be controlled and that this permit would be reviewed on an annual basis, as all of our conditional use permits are, to ensure compliance with whatever conditions were applied to it. This is again kind of a fluid document. We can add to, we can subtract based on what your direction is as a commission. So with that introduction, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I will open another public hearing. Mr. Thornock, I know that if you have more to add or whatever, I know you talked somewhat about the conditional use permit, but we'd like you to say whatever you want to say regarding the conditional use permit, and we'll move forward with that. Okay, sir?
So we'll make this quick. We'll concur with all the suggested stipulations, and would also ask you to consider the 3 subject to stipulations that I stated during my long speech. Thank you.
Again, this is a public hearing, and so with that, we will open that public hearing and allow those who have questions or comments, concerns. Again, I'll just reiterate, be mindful of time, please be direct, to the point, be mindful of others. If there's a question that has been asked and answered, let's capitalize on that so we don't get a lot of repeat comments or questions, if that's possible. Just be respectful, as I know everybody typically is. So with that, is there anyone here that would like to speak regarding the conditional use permit application? Please, you can give us your name and address, sir.
Jeff Green, 533 Spotted Hawk. And if you're not familiar with that, it's off County Road 173. And we were kind of neighbors, Mr. Thornock. I'm on the backside of Aspen Mountain. So I was at the meeting last night, and I obviously use a data center because I've done a lot of looking into Prometheus and other data centers and other people running the data centers. And I think Mr. Thornock, Prometheus is the right fit for the county. I believe him and his brother are doing the right thing for the county. They've done the research, and I think we should support them in this. They had a lot of, they're open, they're transparent. About 6 weeks ago, I got on their website and called at 9:05 a.m. to the phone number listed. 4:45 that day, one of their folks in Casper called me back, and it shocked me. Who is this guy? And he said, Prometheus. I forgot I called, and he's a nice gentleman, lives in Casper, was open to questions, and if that's the kind of folks we need in this project. There's lots of information out here. I was at the county commissioners meeting 2 weeks ago when asking about county incentives. I got informed there is no county incentives. And then last night, Mr. Thornock reiterated that. And they're up front, and it also says in here somewhere that they're not asking anything from the county. So again, another example of them being transparent and open. And one of the other people was asking for, mentioned that it's private property. I think they've gone out of their way, because they could probably go tell us to go pound sand. This is private property. What they're doing, I think, is a big favor to us. And I would urge you to support their endeavor, and thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to have a comment? Yes, sir. Please.
How's everybody doing? Scott, Morsley Street. I'm here, I've seen part of the meeting last night, seen part of the, well, been standing out there for about 2 hours now, and it seems awfully small of a room to have a meeting of this kind of importance, and we should, I'm not either way on this thing, we should be putting this thing to a vote on a ballot initiative. This should be decided by the 21,000 that are in Uinta County.
Why not?
If 21,000, you get 20,000, say, yeah, go for it. I get that it's also property, but at the same time, if I build a fence, I still have to come and stand in front of this council. If I build anything, I still have to come stand in front of this council.
They did it for the 1%
Something of this scale and this
tax increase for
magnitude
non-aquatic
should be
farming.
decided by the
Why can't
voters.
they just do another vote?
You know, no offense or nothing, but it shouldn't be decided by this small of a room with 5 folks. It should be decided by all 21,000 of Uinta County. No? Any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Anyone else?
My name is Barbara Loam. I live in Evanston. My question is about the noise. You mentioned that the decibels were low. My question is about the frequencies and how it affects our animals and wildlife and people's livestock. Has any research been done to that? No. So, no answer? Okay.
We'll get you an answer.
All right.
My name is Kiana Archuleta. I live on Center Street, 240. In regards to the coolant system, in the event of an emergency, like a leakage, what kind of response plan do we have for that? As far as what that could look like, you know, severe weather, fires, things like that. And I think that's an important thing to know about. Also, as far as, you said we're building wells, but how much water initially is going to need to be used for this? How much water, and because it is a clothesline system, but how much water initially is going to be poured? Also, the discharge of the coolant. What happens to the coolant? Where does it go? And how does that affect the environment? Also, are there going to be backup diesel generators, which are generally the size of a rail car? How many of those are going to be used, and what type of emissions are going to be contaminating our air? I think these are things that affect everyone and need to be considered.
She sounds pretty young. I had to worry more about losing my job to AI. Oh, really?
Anyone else?
Okay, Holly Pfeiffer, up in Robertson, Wyoming, County Road 271. And one of my questions is, how is this data center any different than the ones that are being protested around the country? People having problems with contamination of their water, their soil, their air. Others that have no water, they ran out of water. How is that any different of what they're doing, what you guys are doing here versus these other data centers? So, if I could get that answered, that would be fantastic.
When I got here, it was all the way up to the board, and I was standing under for a while, you can't hear anything. So I closed on in here, and you can hear it.
As far as updates to any of the equipment, is that something that's going to come from the developer's wallet, or is that something that the taxpayers are going to have to pay for? Like power lines, things like that. Well, I mean, things depreciate. You've got machinery, you have things like that. Also, in 20 years, you know, as tech evolves, what happens to the infrastructure? Does it just dilapidate, or we're just left with, you know, I think we need to think of the future in other ways other than just technology progressing, but also what does that look like as far as the physical entity. Okay.
To answer that question, it's just a building that just puts servers in. If the servers get outdated, they get replaced by the company that puts it in. Yeah.
My name's Rowdy Martin. I live on Uinta Drive in Lyman, Wyoming. The only, there's a lot to this. There's an abundance of things. The one thing that kept jumping out to me, the power for these doesn't come out of the air. So I did read something about natural gas generation. For 1.5, and I have some crude estimates, but I was wondering if Trenton left a slide out of his presentation that showed the actual consumption of natural gas that's being used to create 1.5 gigawatts of power. In Wyoming, that is probably our number one resource.
That's not
is natural gas, right? So just how that all ties back in. If we're running natural gas generators, there's obviously carbon capture that has to happen. You can use the data centers to get crude estimates for all those numbers, and they're pretty staggering, really. But and just to be clear, I'm not for or against, but I just wanted to know, like, the bottom line, because power doesn't come from the air unless we have like some kind of Tesla coil or something that we're pulling electricity from.
Chairman, I'm wondering, we haven't closed the public hearing yet, and we won't, but I'm wondering if now would be a good time to maybe answer a few of these questions before. And I made myself, maybe Trent, if you want to come back up. And I've got them, but I don't know that Mr. Thorne can read my writing. I don't even know if I can read my writing. I'll try.
All right.
Frequencies, solutions, discharge. This is another. Good luck.
All right, well, we'll compare and contrast here. I think they're the same.
I'll get it to it.
May I speak? So regarding the frequencies, there have been a number of studies that are done. Most low frequency comes from natural sources like thunder, waves, earthquakes, and some unnatural sources like concealed nuclear tests. We will study all the frequencies that are available to us when we do our acoustic study before we start the project. We think it's wise to have a baseline so that we can show exactly what the acoustic profile is before we start. And we'll be happy to share ongoing measurements once we start the facility. The next one is around coolant response plan if a leak happens. Engineered into the facility are places for coolant to go if there's a leak. So they're catchment basins that are part of our engineering in the unlikely event that there is a spill, it will go into a containment area. How much water does it initially use? Well, it's 75% water and 25% propylene glycol. And it will take approximately 3 Olympic swimming pools worth of fluid to do the initial fill, which lasts 6 years for each building. The coolant discharge, where does it go? We do not discharge the coolant. The same supplier who supplies the coolant will be responsible to remove the coolant and dispose of it properly under EPA rules. Diesel backup generators. These are fully scrubbed with the latest in scrubbing technology. The emissions are subject to the EPA and the Wyoming Department of Environmental Quality. So we will be applying for the appropriate air permits when it's time. I can't read this one, but I can go on to the next on this one. How is this one different from other data centers being contested? Well, most of the data centers, and the problem that I saw with the industry when I started, is that the industry did not care how much power it consumed, it did not care how much water it consumed for the compute, and the whole point of starting this company was to provide a new type of infrastructure that was more environmentally responsible. So the way that we differ from most of the data centers out there, I would say more than 98%, is that we do have a closed loop system. We don't consume water for cooling towers or adiabatic cooling. If you go to the Dulles, Washington, on the Washington River, the Uinta tribe fought for years and filed lawsuits to find out how much water Google was using on a daily basis, because everyone had signed NDAs, including the city officials. Eventually, that had to be disclosed, and the Uinta tribe got their wish, and I supported them in their efforts. So that's how we're different. Equipment upgrades, are the taxpayers going to pay for it? Absolutely not. Taxpayers are not paying for anything in this project. All the infrastructure is privately financed with private debt and private equity. So any future upgrades are going to be the responsibility of Prometheus or its tenant. What happens to the infrastructure in 20 years? Well, we have a signed term sheet for a 15-year contract with 2 10-year extensions, and the agreement with the landowner is for a 99-year lease. So the bottom line is the party that's most exposed in this whole project is my family and our land holding company, because they're going to be left holding the bag if this doesn't work. Did I leave a slide out to show the natural gas consumption? No, I didn't, because that's going to be on a different section, and we are going to be back for another request. Generally, natural gas plants in Wyoming are used by right, but we are going to come back here, have another public hearing, and there will be another vote by the county that pertains specifically to all the engineering questions that go around power generation. But again, we are not connected to the grid, so there's nothing for the taxpayer to pay for. Everything is privately funded.
If it's on a pipeline,
I think I've covered everything.
It's not tapped into your natural gas
At least on
resources.
these lists.
Because it's a full, say a 10-inch pipeline. Your utilities are gonna come down through a main PEX. It's not on the grade technically, it's a loophole.
The Kern River is where they're attaching according to them yesterday.
What's that?
Kern River pipeline.
It's not a utility.
Huh?
It's not a utility.
No, I know, but it's an export pipeline anyway.
It goes to California. at Vegas.
So we'll take all the frickin' view
Kyle
from them
Taylor,
we want.
I'm in Evanston up
They
there.
have two 36-inch
I was
lines
just
that go
wondering,
from Muddy Gap all the way down.
you know, there's a
and
lot
where
of
Spire
things in the
Storage would
community
feed
right
into.
now. The senior center,
One
which
pipeline
I
goes
volunteer
into
at between
Las
20 and 40
Vegas.
hours a week.
The second one goes
We're losing
around
volunteers
and
left
goes
and
into Southern
right.
California.
We're raising gas
So
prices.
that's where he's taking the
We're
gas, they can build them
constantly
for.
needing help with the rec center. Is there anything Prometheus will do for our community that's not related to taxes that they can help with donations? With, you know, the senior center needs a lot of help and work. The rec center, the Bridger Valley and the Valley, they don't have even a rec center. Is there anything that you plan to infrastructure to help the community more than just the data center and more than just taxes?
You know, we're at war. You know, it's gonna be some, I mean, if they have one of these small nuclear reactors, guess what's gonna be one of the first targets? Are those things. Those are gonna be.
So this afternoon, the director of our Build Wyoming program, Eric Schlitt, had another meeting with community members to get together a list of needs. We can't promise that we're going to build everything that you asked for, but we're going to take the full list. We're going to sit down with our tenant. We're going to sit down with our other partners like Target Hospitality that many of the community members have had the opportunity to meet. And we are going to do a one-way contract that binds us to provide some of these benefits that the community needs. I'm not going to offer dollar figures because I think that's inappropriate at this point, but we expect that those commitments will be significant.
Anyone else?
Kane Pyatt, 1237 Uinta Street, number 9. Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say that I met Trenton on the phone in 2024, and I have interviewed him for the newspaper, for the Uinta County Herald, 3 times, and did a story in 2024, 2025, and most recently, the most recent story is on Uinta County Herald Facebook page, and I would encourage anybody to read it, and if you have lingering questions when you leave. But one thing I wanted to say is that I have met a lot of corporate people in my life, but I have to say that Trenton Thornick and the people that work with him that I've met, excuse me, are some of the most transparent and honest and ethical people that I've ever met. And when I started interviewing Trenton, I didn't know anything about data centers, and I have to tell you a funny story. I had lunch at the senior center today, and I started talking about the data center in the meeting yesterday, and everybody at the table, there were 6 people, 6 senior citizens there, and they said, "What is a data center?" So I said, one of them picked up her phone and was using it, and I asked her if she ever watched movies on Netflix, streamed movies. She said yes. I said, well, you're using a data center. Have you ever checked your health records? Well, you're using a data center. So they're here to stay. Whether us oldies like it or not, it's a changed world. And sometimes I'd like to throw a shoe through my computer when it disagrees with me, but we don't even realize how much data centers give us. If you ever look on your phone and ask Siri to find a location for you when you're traveling, you're using a data center. So I just want to say that, just reinforce the fact that I think Trenton Thornick and his staff really have their heart in the right place, and I really truly believe Trenton when he says he cares about this community and that he wants to help the community. So just my personal opinion, not the paper's opinion, my personal opinion. Thank you.
I'm going to separate that.
Anyone else?
I feel a lot better
I guess there is no one else, Mr. Chairman. We can close the public hearing and let you have your discussion.
Okay, thank you. You guys have any questions for anybody? No, no hands.
presentation. Made me understand a lot more.
It's one of the most complete applications that I've seen in 20 years on this board.
I know. We've seen some.
Mr. Chairman, just for our staff's help, I guess, or assistance, I know that Mr. Thornock mentioned 3 conditions that he would like. I did not write those down, but what I would say is if someone is inclined to make a motion to approve this, if you will make that motion with the inclusion of the conditions that you might suggest, as well as what Mr. Thornock suggested to it, and then we'll make that into words on the next document.
Did write them down if you want.
Beautiful.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
I want to kind of know what he's going to do with the fire department. There's going to be some special circumstances out there. We need to know if they're willing to pay the trainer guys, take them out there if something happens. We need to know where they stand with that.
Please.
So regarding fire protection during the construction of the facility, that's the responsibility of our general contractors. So they will be responsible for having requisite resources out there to handle it so that it's not a burden on the community. Once the facility is operational, the design currently is to have a Victolic Vortex fire suppression system. Generally speaking, there are no hazardous materials on site. So we have no special hazmat requirements. It's like a giant Amazon warehouse, but it's full of computer racks. And so the Victolic Vortex system should take care of any unexpected fire situations. But to the extent that additional equipment is required, then we want that to be part of the community benefits agreement.
Thank you.
I have a question for you also. On the construction of the roads in the area for dust suppression, are you going to be using county water? Are you going to use it from your well? Where are you going to get your water for construction?
So we're talking to Silver Eagle Refining because they have their own well right now for their fire suppression system. We'll probably use mag water for the road. We may buy that from the city of Evanston to the extent it's available to buy.
I'm sorry, the public hearing is closed. It's their discussion now. But if you want to stick around, we can try to get your questions answered.
Any more questions? We don't. Let's see if we have a motion. Curtis, you're always a good motion maker.
You guys do this to me every time. Okay. I make a motion that we approve conditional use permit 26-01, Prometheus, Wyoming, or Atlas, whichever the name is, with the stipulations that are included that Kent had given to us. I got those right here somewhere. I wrote them all down. There we are. The first 5 that Kent referred to earlier. And then with the 3 that Mr. Thornock provided, that he would, as soon as possible, would post for public view online the water usage meter for their well. And secondly, that he would also post data online showing discharge gases from the gen sets. And that they would also repair or replace the bridge at County Road 180 and 181. And he volunteered to post an impact bond for that, but I'm not going to include that in my motion. I think we can trust him. We don't need a bond. That is my motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Conditional use permit 26-01 has been pass through the commission to go on to the county commissioners for their final approval and their study on it.
Thank you, sir.
Now, do we have any other business?
That is the extent of the agenda unless you have something for me.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.